You are not your past. There's a beautiful quote from a man named Alan Watts, and it says, "You are under no obligation to be the same person that you were 5 minutes ago." And I can't help but smile every time I see that, because we oftentimes get so caught up in the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are. We all have a past. We all have different things that we've done in our life, things that we're proud of, things that we're not so proud of. We've all had different experiences. And these, from my perspective, are all just part of our unique path that we're walking. We learn something from all of them. And no matter what happens in our life, we always have the ability to choose how we see those things. And this is not to disregard the things that have happened in our life. You could have went through some form of abuse. You could have went through a divorce, a very harsh breakup. You maybe saw your body in a certain way and didn't like how it looked, so you tried everything you could to change it. You may feel shame for things that you've done. You may feel like you are not enough the way that you are, and therefore you got to move through life as if you need to prove yourself. You may hold a perspective from childhood that makes you feel like you're inferior to others and that other people are better than you. These are all experiences that we all have as human beings. And I'm no different. I've gone through my fair share of different experiences throughout my life, whether it was family life or through earlier friendships, perspectives I held, feeling that I wasn't enough the way that I was, and I had to constantly do or take action or perform to be somebody worth listening to or to be somebody who was of value. But it's seeing the gift in all of these experiences is really what transforms them from something that feels limiting to something that can be very empowering. It's almost like alchemy, right? It's the alchemy of transmuting pain into purpose. This was the biggest breakthrough moment for me in my life. And if you don't know what we mean by alchemy and transmutation, it's basically you're transforming something over here, pain, darkness, a memory, something that feels like it's part of you and that you can never let it go and you got to carry it around. And we're transforming that into something more light, something that can be used as purpose, that changes the energy of it from something that is perceived to be negative into something that can be positive if we choose to look at it that way. And that could be a journey. You may be sitting there and saying to yourself, well, I've had all of these different things happen to me in my life. How I currently view myself is how I currently view myself. How am I supposed to ever change any of that? The idea is not to change any of it. The idea is actually just to see it from a different perspective. A perspective that you wouldn't be you today watching this video without any of those things. You wouldn't be the incredible human being that you are without going through those things, because they help you look at life the way that you see life. And your unique perspective is valuable. And how you interpret things is entirely up to you, and you have the choice to see that in a different way if you want to. The most powerful part of my journey was when I was running my marketing agency at the time, and I was feeling like this is not really something I want to do long term. I was doing something that was a little bit out of alignment for me. I was probably doing the wrong business, and I didn't really realize it. I was just coming to understand that. I remember going through this course at the time, and this course was about rediscovering your purpose. And I remember getting to about the fourth or fifth video where he talked about the idea that your pain is your greatest purpose. And that flipped the switch for me. I remember being in tears after watching that video, because I felt the weight of everything that I'd been carrying start to be accepted. I just was invited into the possibility that all of these things that I felt were so negative towards my family, towards myself, towards the different experiences that I had, there's a possibility that that actually could be a good thing. That idea in itself helped this process of letting go and accepting I am not my past, and that I can actually transform this into something beautiful, something amazing. And when we zoom out, isn't that how everything unfolds? We have the butterfly, which I have on my arm here. The butterfly doesn't start off as a butterfly, it starts off as a caterpillar. And it goes through this journey of darkness in the cocoon where there's no light. It's not nice. It's just dark. And in those moments is where that's being transformed. And then it emerges as this beautiful butterfly. Now that's so significant because it's the same process that we're talking about here of transmuting, moving, and transforming this perceived darkness into something more beautiful. So when we can see that our past is not something that defines us, we can actually see it as something that opens up the possibility that we can use this for good in the world. We can use this to help other people. We can use this to actually be of service. And as we go on our own journey of unraveling that and feeling the things that we got to feel and letting go of the things that we can let go of and forgiving the people who may have hurt us and letting ourselves be seen and witnessed as someone who is not a victim, but as someone who has actually just gone through a human experience that we all go through in different ways, and that rises like a phoenix out of that because we refuse to be defined by the past. I think that that's a powerful idea that we could lean into if we feel like that's something that could serve us moving forward. So anything that's happened in your life, any perspective that you hold, how you view yourself, the most helpful part of this journey for me was looking at the stories I was telling myself about my life. What was I telling myself about my relationship to my father? What was I telling myself about the relationship I had to my mother? What was the story I was telling myself about the childhood that I had? Was it really the way I tell myself? Or am I choosing to ignore certain moments because it suits the story that I've adopted over time? In hindsight, we usually just remember the things that had an imprint on us, an emotional feeling that made us remember those things. But this is the beautiful part about it. When we begin to zoom out on those past moments, we start to see that everything is always equally balanced. What I mean by this is I'm talking about the universal principle of polarity. Good and bad, positive and negative, light and dark, up and down, left and right. There's always an equal opposite to everything. So therefore, when we look at past moments and we see them as negative, there has to be a positive element to it if we really look for it. But that can be challenging. One of the most helpful exercises I've ever done is to look at some of those memories and see the negativity of it. That was very clear to me. And then go and intentionally look for the positive elements to it. Try to find how this was actually a good thing. Because this is the beautiful thing. When we're experiencing something in the moment, it can appear to be negative. But when we go throughout our life and we look back in hindsight, oftentimes we can see the positive elements to it. Let's take a breakup, for example. You're with somebody, you break up, you feel pain. You feel like it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. But then, a couple of months later, a couple of years later, you look back and you're like, thank God I didn't continue in that relationship for whatever reason. Nothing against the other person, but that wasn't right for me. I learned something about myself. I learned how I was behaving in that relationship, and it caused me to see the patterns that I was playing out in real time. And what a gift it is to not be with that person, and I wish them all the best. When we look back in hindsight, we can see clearly. But when we're in the moment of experiencing something, we get fogged and we think that everything is negative because we're experiencing negativity in the moment. But our mind can't perceive the future. We can't predict what's going to happen. So we got to be able to trust that there's a positive element to it. There's a positive aspect to this. A couple of months ago, I went through a breakup myself. There was some very heavy moments where I felt like I should have been this way or I should have done this differently. And in the moment, I felt the heaviness of emotion. So many different things were coming up for me. And I was doing everything I could to remind myself that, hey, there's a positive aspect to this that I'm just maybe not seeing right now. Maybe I just need to sit with my emotions. Maybe I just need to be present with how I feel right now. And the lessons and the things that are going to be uncovered from this experience will show themselves in due time. And now looking back in hindsight, I can see clearly everything I needed to learn within that relationship, at least from how I'm viewing it now. That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. That doesn't mean it just goes away. But it means that we can learn something from it. And if we can cultivate this skill of having the foresight that no matter what we experience in the moment, no matter how negative or heavy it feels, that there is a positive element to it. We just can't see it yet. And if we trust that that's the way things unfold, because if we believe that the world is inherently here to help us grow and to benefit us, not here to just destroy us, that positive aspect of looking at the world through that lens can really help us foresee that there's going to be some good that comes from this. This too shall pass, no matter what. So you are not your past. They are the gift that if we so choose, we can see that there is light in the darkness. We can see that everything that we've experienced can be something that we can choose to transform and to use for the benefit of ourselves and the benefit of others in a way that we can all learn from each other. The most helpful thing within these experiences of positive and negative and understanding that there's polarity in everything is seeing things from a neutral perspective. Because when we see the negative and then we find the positive, or when we see the positive, but we also see the negative, we find ourselves somewhere in the middle, this state of neutrality. And we can then zoom out and see that no matter what's happening, we're actually always labeling things as good or bad, unconsciously. Have you noticed that? We could have a good day and we're like, this is a great day. Then we have a bad day and we're like, this is a bad day. But it's just a day. It's just that we feel different things throughout those days for whatever reasons. And the more we can find that state of neutrality, the more we can see things through the lens of them being neutral, and that we apply the labels based on how we feel. And when we can zoom out and see that, we can start to see that our past is simply just a collection of moments and memories. We can see them through the lens of them being a gift if we want to do that. And hey, we're not here to ignore the fact that some of those things are heavy. Some of those things were hard. We're not here to ignore that at all. But they don't have to define you. They don't have to define your future. Because when all of our attention and focus is on the past, we're destined to recreate it in the future. Because that's where our focal point is. Because when we recreate that in the future, because we're carrying it on a backpack, we recreate it in the future to bring our attention to the fact that we're carrying it. Give us the opportunity to let it go. An example of this is you're in a relationship. It's maybe a toxic relationship or whatever you want to label it as. And you get out of that relationship and then you go into another relationship. But it's the same person. is because there's something there you haven't learned, something there you haven't seen yet. But if you choose to see it, and you choose to grow, you choose to forgive, and you choose to love yourself in those moments enough to set the boundaries, to make the new choice, then that relationship will not be recreated in the future, because you changed. And when you change, the ripple effect of that creates a new future for yourself. We are the ones creating the journey for ourselves. So the more that we can understand that the past is not something that defines us, it's something that has given us experiences, to choose a new perspective, to see them as the lessons that they are, and to know that by doing so, we recreate a new future for ourselves as well. And that journey of letting those things go is different for everyone. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace. It's not an easy thing. You are transforming things that have been passed on to you for generations, and you can be the one to let those things go. So give yourself some grace. It's not an easy thing to do. With all that being said, we always have the opportunity to choose. We create our future. We do not have to be defined by the past.